Well, David, do you feel warm yet?
Yes, I feel comfortable.
Because we got the Honduras Cup and a Hawaiian watch band.
Oh, you want to feel it all over, huh? Bring it on the heat.
Yeah.
That's
So,
like somebody else. I may complain a lot about the cold, but bring on the summer so I can complain some more.
oh no, I haven't complained a bit.
It's still cold and windy here today, folks.
Yes.
Best place to be on the inside, and this is coming from Alabama.
Yeah.
Of course, they say it's one of the reasons why people don't want to move to this state, because the weather's not constant enough. You have to be born here to get used to it.
Yeah, now where I used to live, in Kansas, they got like a foot of snow.
Oh, I think I stumbled across something on the Google page where it was some kind of snow caused a pile up on I-70. Well, usually states like that are prepared for snow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they had a.
The people get out on it before they get it fixed, though. That's another story.
Yeah, they had a blizzard.
You got 18-wheeler come rolling down there and can't stop. Woo. That's like getting scourged, ain't it?
Yep. So we may or may not go live Friday.
Oh, Friday. Ooh, Friday. Ooh. They're talking like 100% chance of snow
I still don't believe it.
in the evening.
I still don't believe it.
Well, like I said, in Alabama, you got to check the weather every day because it changes. It may go from snowing to heat wave.
Yep.
In summer, in the wintertime.
Yep.
Of course, a heat wave is 60 degrees.
True.
So, David, where are we at?
Well, I guess we have a transition.
Well,
Sentenced to crucifixion.
so let's do a little summary. Where was we at last week?
We were
Before Pilate.
on Friday, which
Yep.
wasn't Friday.
Yeah. That's where the crowd was saying, crucify him, crucify him. Is that Ryan or Brian?
Ryan.
Ryan's line. I think in one of the books, I don't know if it was Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, I think Pilate said something about scourging him.
Mm-hmm.
So, before we get into the scripture, I thought I'd give a little review on or some ideas of how the Romans scourged their prisoners.
Let's do
So I am going to read from the book of the Footsteps of Jesus. All right, the scourging. Having been condemned to death, Jesus was led away to be flogged prior to his crucifixion. For many modern readers, this seems a rather egregious punishment. Why subject a man to rigorous flogging when he is shortly destined to die an agonizing death on the cross? Usually flogging was a penalty inflicted on those like Jeremiah and later the apostles who would be released in due course, but needed a reminder not to commit the same transgression again. In Jesus' case, such a punishment was obviously pointless. Why then order a scourging? Well, that does bring up that question.
Yeah.
If they're going to kill him, why beat him? Of course, he's got them other two criminals beside him. They don't say if they were flogged or not.
Yeah.
They seem better condition than him when they on the crosses.
Yeah.
We'll be getting that later.
True.
Traditionally, crucifixion was reserved for rebels or anyone else challenging Roman sovereignty, such as slaves, because it involved a torment that could stretch over many days. A case in point is the sentence that the Roman consul Crassus meted out against Spartacus and his slave rebel army in 71 BC. 6,000 slaves were crucified along the Via Appia, Rome's busiest road, at 10-yard intervals. Many of these men survived for 2 days or more. For the Romans, this was the whole purpose of nailing someone to the cross. The culprit needed to serve as an object lesson for all those harboring similar seditious thoughts. Man, that's a lot of. How many did he say? 6?
Now, the translation answers that question.
Yeah.
It was accustomed to scourge for crucifixion.
But here, it talks about Spartacus. Evidently, that's I think a lot of people think that's a legend, but
Yeah.
he became a legend in Rome. But 6,000 crucifix. What I'd have done, same wood, is I'd put crucified on one side and one on the other. You wouldn't need but half the lumber.
True.
I'll be stopping and getting to see up every now and then. The great value of crucifixion gained particular significance during the early imperial Roman period, when Rome forces were stretched so thin that their ability to quell an actual insurrection was left in doubt. This was born out of the Jewish rebellion, which erupted in 60 CE. I don't know if that's AD. Yeah. That's when they started seizing the walls of Jerusalem. It took the Romans no less than 3 years and a large expeditionary force to suppress it. Since retaining a large military presence in all possible trouble spots was not feasible, the Romans chose another form of deterrent. They decided to punish would-be rebels with the cruelest and most painful form of execution yet devised by man. I know when the Romans tore down Jerusalem, it's like they besieging it for like 3 years before they took it.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't no food going in or out. People would try to escape. Well, the Romans would catch them and crucify them right outside of the walls of Jerusalem, so they could see on the inside this is what you're gonna get if you leave. The idea of a man slowly dying on a cross was, however, reprehensible to Jews, for it violated the Torah's decree that every person executed for his crimes had to be taken down before sundown. To let a man wither for days on end ran the risk of enraging the Jewish population, and thus provoked the very rebellion it was designed to preempt. How to ensure then that a condemned man died on the cross before sundown? The answer was to substantially weaken a man before he was taken to his place of execution, and the And the obvious way to do that was to cause significant loss of blood. There's your reason they flog them, scourge them before they take them across. Man, they didn't want them to last 2 days.
Yeah.
Especially in the promised land of Jerusalem, or Israel and Judea. Because the Jews didn't. Only thing I can think what they do is if they had to take them down by sundown and they weren't dead, and they didn't scourge them, I wonder if they put them right back up the next day.
Yeah.
I wonder if they took me down, I wouldn't be looking forward to going back up again. That's painful enough. Just thinking about it.
I think I could find a way to get out of there.
I don't know if I could sleep that night, knowing they're gonna have to run them nails back through my hands again.
You didn't plot to get out of there? That's what I'd be doing.
Well, they probably locked them up.
Never thought about that.
Yep.
That's pretty. That's
Of course,
cool.
when they drive the nail through your foot, I don't know if you can walk after that.
Man, I can walk, but I can definitely crawl.
Take you a long time to go a mile, though. Okay, this may be the reason why Jesus was condemned to be flogged. To scourge a man, the Roman army used an instrument known as a flagrum, which consisted of 3 or more things, or thongs. It must be the strings.
Yeah.
Such studded with sharp stones or chunks of sheep bone. When you wielded by an expert executioner, the whip could systematically strip the skin off a man's back without inflicting too much damage on the muscles underneath. Oh, that's called perfection.
Yeah.
According to Mark's gospel, Jesus was then taken to Golgotha, the place of execution. So on the same day, so he was beaten that morning and carried the cross. Here's this: some scholars have questioned whether Pilate would have risked inciting a popular outcry by executing Jewish prisoners during the Passover festival. On the other hand, Pilate may well have been keen to see Jesus executed immediately, lest his imprisonment would give him presumed followers time to stage new protests in a densely packed city. Could start a riot.
Yeah.
Let him go, let him
But that wouldn't happen.
go. No, that's why he wanted to get him up there fast.
Yeah.
Crucifixion was a time-consuming and labor-intensive undertaking, not likely to be staged on a whim. And for just one man, In other words, Jesus might have been the exception instead of spreading it out.
Yeah, true.
It is therefore quite possible that some form of group execution had already been planned in advance to coincide with the Passover festival, and that as the Gospels state, Jesus was executed with other condemned men. Dressed in his rough tunic, which was now encrusted with dry blood, Jesus was led out of the gates of the praetorium to the place of execution. He was, as Mark's gospel tells us, compelled to carry the instrument of his execution himself. But this was probably not a full cross, as traditional depictions of Jesus' passion suggest. Wood was sparse in Judea, therefore expensive, while crucifixion were common. For this reason, punishments were usually carried out in a designated execution ground. Even Rome itself had such a crucifixion ground just outside the Esquiline Gate. In Jerusalem, the killing field was called Golgotha, the place of the skull in Aramaic. Given that the cost of each wooden cross was substantial, it was likely that the Romans would have set up permanent upright stakes. In that case, all the prisoner was required to carry was so-called petulium, or the crossbeam. This beam would still have weight about 75 pounds. So the antidote in Mark's Gospel, in which a bystander, Simon of Cyrene, is pressed to carry Jesus' cross part of the way, still rings true. I have seen movies where he's carrying the whole cross.
Yeah.
And then I've seen some where he's just carrying the beam. But he probably was carrying a beam that wasn't brand new either. It probably been used for crucifixions before.
Yeah.
So it probably had a bunch of little holes in it where it nailed into the cross. And some suggest, since wood is so expensive and hard to come by, that the actual vertical stem that was actually still a tree instead of a wood beam. They just attached the wood beam to a tree that he carried to parallel it around and just nailed his foot into the tree.
So maybe not like a cross.
Not a full cross. That tree may have 3 or 4 branches on it. You just picked one that was the sturdiest. Pushed him up there. So it makes you wonder how, like some movies, they have a rope running through a ring. And that way they can pull it up and set the whole thing down into a hole.
Yep.
But if this was the case, if that beam was still standing, they'd had to nail him down, his hands down, and pull him up by a rope on each side to get him up.
Yeah.
And then nail his foot in the tree, or post or whatever. If they're already standing.
Yeah.
That's technology for you. Now I'm getting to a little meat here. And David, what do we have?
Oh boy, we have a transition.
Jesus was delivered by Pilate to be scourged before execution. Commonly practiced before crucifixion, the scourging consisted of a leather whip with bones, rock, metal in the ends that ripped the flesh from a prisoner's back. Scourging severely weakened a prisoner, thereby hastening death on the cross, or sometimes was fatal itself. In addition to the scourge, Jesus was subject to the soldiers' mockery about him being king of the Jews. So here again it talks about to hasten the death was so they could get him down before sundown. The scourging and mocking took place in the Praetorium. This area, which John identifies as the pavement in John 19:13. functioned at the Roman governor's headquarters. It was often also the governor's residence. And Mark describes it as a hall in Mark 15:16. Some think that the Praetorium was located at Herod the Great's palace in the western part of Jerusalem. One archaeologist identified the Praetorium with the square in front of the palace, which Herod built in 23 BC. The accounts of Matthew and Mark report Jesus being crucified following the flagellation, but John's gospel relates its continuation of the hearing in John 19:8-11. The effect of the long hearing before the governor reinforces Jesus' innocence. Pilate appealed for Jesus' release, but ceased such efforts when faced with a new political threat. The governor would not risk accusations of disloyalty to Caesar. In the end, the blame for Jesus' death falls on the religious leaders and the crowd as well as Pilate. Yeah, you know, I think when we was doing Mark before Pilate, they were saying that it was probably the most condensed as it happened. And I'm sitting here, you know, thinking about all this. And, he had to be before Pilate right around sunup.
Yeah.
Which would be about 6 hour time, and they had like maybe 2.5 hours to get him on the cross.
Yeah.
So his trial probably couldn't have been more than an hour. Because he had to be scourged, then he had to carry it up there, then they had to get him prepared and nail him up and do all that stuff. And it could have been no more than 3 hours. I'm thinking.
Dang, that'll be rushed. But makes sense. Because if you think about them, they did it so much back then. They knew. It's kind of like you ever get a softball field ready to play on?
Yeah, I seen it done.
It's kind of like that. You know, you think it takes a while, but you think about
Well, you gotta
getting it in.
You rake the infield. You gotta mark the lines.
Yep. Drag it. All that good stuff. So for someone that doesn't know how to do it, it would be a learning process. It would take a while.
Yeah.
But crucifixion was a custom they've done for
I wonder
how many years.
Makes you kind of wonder how many soldiers knew how to do that.
Yeah.
Or they have their own group of executioners.
Yeah.
But the book did say that the guy that did the flogging, he was an expert at it.
Yep.
You knew just how deep to get it.
Yep.
And then you sit here and think about Jesus carrying that cross. If your back's split open, you couldn't carry it. I don't say anybody could carry it on your back. You'd have to carry it like this. Because his back's all...
Well, that's the point, though. Torture. Right?
Well, he was beat so bad, though, he couldn't carry it, so he had to... That Simon guy had to carry it for him.
Yeah.
But, Because I think in Isaiah it talks he was maimed so bad he looked like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his hair's all down in his face. You can't see nothing. I don't think all his blood had dried up. Even when he's on the cross, I don't think his blood was completely dried up. He's making puddles all the way to Golgotha.
Yeah.
So, what scripture we gonna start with here? Matthew 27.
Yeah, you want to start with Matthew or jump around?
Well, it's only there's only 3 on this. John being the longest one. We can do all 3.
Yeah.
See what we can pull out of this.
We'll do Matthew then.
You got it?
Yeah.
27 through 31.
Yep. Okay.
Get you sip of coffee. Sip your coffee.
That might be a good idea.
You need the gargle. You got a sloth on that cup.
Yeah. He's probably never even seen snow.
Is that so you can drink it slow?
Yeah. Okay, then the soldiers. Let's see. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the Petroleum and gathered the whole garrison around him, and they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. When they had twisted a crown of thorns, they put on his head and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews." That would be Ryan's part if he were here. Then they spat on him and took I was doing so good until then. Took the reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they took the robe off him and put his own clothes on him and led him away to be crucified.
So there's no scourging mentioned in that one.
Mm-hmm.
But they did whack him on the head with a reed. I guess that's to be like a stick about that big around.
Yeah, kind of like a bamboo stick, right?
Maybe
Like
but they're hollow. It might not have been hollow.
Like a pool stick.
That's not as long, maybe.
I've been whacked in the head with one of those.
Well, what the reed represented was a king's scepter. So he had the crown, he had his reed, he had his robe.
Yeah.
So there he was, royalty, king of the Jews.
Yep. That's true. Okay. You want Mark or you want me to get it?
You can read it. You can read all of it.
And Mark 15, 16, and 20. Then the soldiers led him away into the hall called the Petroleum. Kind of sounds like petroleum jelly. And they called together the whole garrison. They clothed him with purple, and they twisted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and began to salute him, "Hail, King of the Jews." Then they struck him on the head with a reed and spat on him, and bowing the knee, they worshipped him. And when they mocked him, they took the purple off him and his clothes on him, put his clothes back on him, and led him out to crucify him. So basically the same,
Except, I think,
same exact story.
yeah. Except one uses scarlet robe and one uses purple robe. Somebody's colorblind.
You know? We'll go ahead and read John 19, 1 through 6. Let me try to find something here.
1 through 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a little longer version. It's kind of like John saw it himself.
Yep.
So then Pilate took Jesus and scourged him. There's the scourging. And the soldiers twisted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put on him a purple robe. Second, that means purple. Then they said, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they struck him with their hands. Where's the rod? The reed. Pilate then went out again and said to them, "Behold, I bring him out to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him." All right. So far, he's been scourged
Yes.
and he's been brought back out.
Mhm.
He looks a mess.
Yeah.
All them people that's present to see. You might think that somebody want to throw up.
David. I don't know if you caught that though. You got, there's two people in this world, right? That doesn't mind throw up and can't stand the sight of it.
Don't mind it and can't stand the sight of it.
Yep. Like Frankie, the custodian at the Psychic Elementary, he can do what, it doesn't affect him, but me,
Yeah.
I can hardly do it. There's for those of you that might say, there's a contradiction here with the rod and the slap. What is that? Slapping
with his hand, yeah.
Yeah. You see, Frankie would have been the one slapping. I would have been the one with the.
You didn't want to touch him?
No.
Because, they got that thorn and that blood's coming down. So if they slap him, they get it on their hands.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind blood, but puke, I don't think I could stand that.
You can't?
No.
Oh, David. No. Now, question. Scarlet robe in purple what color is scarlet?
I think it's on a dark red color.
That's what I was thinking. Because scarlet, crimson.
It ain't exactly purplish.
No.
Might not have no purple in it at all.
Now,
Well, what color do you need to put together to make purple? That'd be something to check out on the color scale.
yeah,
So
true.
So you put red and yellow together, you get orange.
Yeah.
So, orange. Purple, you'd have to put red and blue together, probably.
Yeah.
So scarlet would have the red, the purple would have the red in it instead of scarlet. Okay.
That is interesting.
So we read down where they bring him back out to the crowd. And, I was telling him I find no fault in this man.
Now, what time do you think this is?
It's got to be within the first hour after daylight.
After daylight. Oh.
I told you, it's got to go fast.
True.
That's why they say that like the Praetorium and Herod's palace had to be close together. So all I had to do is just shove him across the street to the other one.
Yeah.
It would take 5 minutes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So Herod Herod interviews him or interrogates him, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I said, don't follow him. Send him back over to Pilate.
Another 5 minutes across the road.
Mm-hmm.
30 minutes, he's being scourged.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, but then he's been brought back out before the people, looking all bloody.
Yeah.
There's probably black and blue. Man, he might got some black eyes
Us
too.
too.
And Jesus came out wearing
The crown of thorns and the
Wait, where are you at?
verse 5.
Oh.
You told me to read down to 6.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Then Jesus came out
Wearing the crown.
thorns and the purple robe, and Pilate said to them, behold the man. Therefore, when the chief priests and officers saw him,
They cried out saying, crucify him, crucify him.
Man, I wish Ryan were here.
So
they didn't care how he looked.
they still wanted him dead.
Yeah.
I mean, if they felt any sympathy for him, they would have been satisfied.
Yeah.
But there's no sympathy there.
Mm-mm. Now,
Not even when he's a bloody mess.
now, did you heal from that, or would you just die?
He could probably heal from it.
But
It'd probably take him 6 months.
Mm.
He'd have to sleep on his stomach because his back's all busted open. So he'd have to sleep on his stomach all the time.
Mm.
It'd be kind of hard to feed him laying on his stomach because he's gonna sleep a lot. For one thing,
Mm.
cause when he moves, the slightest move he makes is gonna hurt.
Yep.
Cause just like I said, when they scourge him, it gets down. They don't quite get into the muscle.
Yeah.
So you still move, but the muscles gonna feel a little of it. But then outside the muscles, you got your nerves going through your skin.
Yeah.
And if your nerves ain't tore out,
and they're here and there in your back.
Yeah.
They're gonna feel it. They're gonna feel the pain.
Yep. And
put goosebumps on my head.
It's not because it's cold either.
mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, take it away.
Verse 7. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Then the Jews answered him, we have a law, and according to our law, he ought to die because he made himself the Son of God. Therefore, when Pilate heard that saying, he was more afraid and went again into the Petroleum and said to Jesus, Where are you from? But Jesus gave him no answer. Then Pilate said to him, Are you not speaking to me? Do you not know I have the power to crucify you and the power to release you? Jesus answered, You could have no power at all against me unless it be given you from above. Therefore, the one who delivered me to you has the greater sin.
They must be talking about Judas.
Yeah.
And then I think we can see one of those we read about Judas. And the question that a lot of people would raise is, did Judas repent, or did he
Die in his sin.
Yeah.
And I found a verse that would probably answer that question. I think we did that about maybe 2 weeks ago.
What verse?
I'm trying to find it where. Let's see. Trial before Caiaphas, betrayal with a kiss. Wasn't prepared for that one.
You want to finish this out while you look for it?
Yeah, go ahead.
From then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, saying, "If you let this man go, you are not Caesar's friend. Whoever makes himself a king speaks against Caesar." When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Jesus and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha, not Golgotha, but Gabbatha. Okay. Now it was the petroleum, the preparation day for the Passover, and against the 6th hour. And he said to the Jews, "Behold your king." But they cried out, "Away with him, and crucify him." Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" Good point.
He's not our king.
Then he delivered him to be crucified. Then they took Jesus and led him away.
A little more conversation going on in John.
Yeah.
But I found that verse.
Yeah, what was it?
It says, that Judas, his betrayer, seeing that he had been condemned, was remorseful and brought back 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, "I have sinned by betraying innocent blood."
Mm-hmm.
So that to me would be repentance. But it was too late. And he couldn't do nothing about it.
But he didn't repent.
That sounds, he said, "I have sinned and betrayed innocent blood." And he was remorseful.
Yeah.
They say you gotta be remorseful when you sin. Of course, unbelievers might not have that. But, I'm gonna read this section up here about mocking the so-called king. Often playing games to pass time, soldiers were known to beat and ridicule those they were about to execute. So they mocked Jesus, kneeling before him to imitate the Eastern Mediterranean custom of bowing before kings. Their salutation, "Hail," was the standard way Romans saluted their emperor. Many Romans, and especially Greeks, disliked the Jews. Hence, as the soldiers mocked a condemned Jewish man as king of the Jews, they had it mocking the land of Judea as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
Yeah.
What would they have done if it wasn't a Jew? Probably not do them. I wonder if they would have executed Barabbas the same way or just chopped his head off. Part of the soldiers' charade involved placing upon Jesus the regalia of a king crown, robe, and scepter. The reed parodies a scepter. The soldiers may have had a bamboo cane available,
Dang.
since they frequently used such for military flogging. Roman soldiers wore scarlet robes, so the robe they draped on Jesus was possibly a faded scarlet. If it was one of theirs, possibly they imitated the purple robe of the Greek rulers who reigned in the eastern Mediterranean before the Romans' conquest. The soldiers mocked Jesus with words they thought were false, yet some of those words turned out in the end to be true. The Jewish people expected a king who would deliver them from the Romans, and the crowds hailed Jesus during the triumphant entry into Jerusalem. Romans who executed anyone they considered to be a threat to Judea's political stability crucified Jesus in the charge of claiming to be King of the Jews. They failed to realize that Jesus' kingship was real, just not of this world. And that's what he told Pilate.
Still is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, we've come through the
Scourging and sentencing of Jesus.
him being, and John presented to the crowd.
Out after the scourging, which
John's the only one that mentions scourging. You know, that's probably a lot of the Easter plays. I think they'll use John
because
of all of that.
Yep.
Morning. I know Mel Gibson's The Passion of Christ. They use John. Because, like I said, the other two
don't mention scourging.
So, David, I guess that
Concludes this section.
Yep, and we'll take a break and we'll
Heat up the coffee.
see what else we can get into.
yeah, we're gonna brainstorm here and see what we can do.
Because it's next session.
We may pull up a subject,
We may even
do a Bible character song.
Yeah, you get your little picture on, we'll see.